To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry 2.0, Live 2.0. I'm your host, Shawn Whittington. I'm a seminarian in the United States Old Catholic Church, and I'm coming to you live from my haunted house, my very haunted house, where I live. Been quiet today. Actually, no, there we go. The dream catcher's starting to spin a little bit, and it was still before we started. Okay, so the audience on both sides of the veil are starting to show up for today's show, and we got a great show. You all know this, my guest, and love him, and it's going to be really cool getting a chance to pick his brain for a little bit because usually I have several members of his team on at one time, and we have a usually a round table para chat, if you will. But now I just got him all to myself tonight, so that's going to be fun. Let's check the prayer urn. Mindy W. Hi, Mindy, from Seattle. Very cool city. Relocating out of state for a better job and a safer place to live. I hear you, sister. Can you please say a prayer for safe travels for me and my family? You know, that is a beautiful request, Mindy, and I most certainly will. And I'm sorry to hear about Seattle. You know, I have friends there. I have a family there too, a cousin. It's a shame to hear about some of the things that are happening to the city of Seattle. I hope they get that straightened out. But I most certainly will. And but you know, everything's looking up for you. You've relocating for a job, and hopefully you've researched the area you're moving to. And you didn't mention that, but um, God bless you. So yes, I will offer up a prayer for you for that. Okay. I offer this prayer up to Mindy. In the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, you called Abraham, your servant, out of Ur and kept him safe and sound in all his wandering. We humbly ask you to protect us, your servants, before us a support when setting out, friendship along the way, a little shade from the sun, a safeguard in time of danger, and a haven in shipwreck. Bear us up in fatigue and defend us under attack. Under your protection, let us fulfill the purpose of our trip and return safe and sound to our home. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Mindy, do me a big favor. When you get to where you're going, send me a message and let me know that you got there safe and where you're at. And stay in touch, okay, sister? God bless you, you know, in your new adventure. Let's check the mailbag. Bill K. from Alabama. Alabama. I can't remember the last time I spoke to somebody from Alabama. Can you guys? Any thoughts on why so much drama in the paranormal community? Do you think it will ever get any better? Bill, I'm going to get hate mail for this. I'm sorry to say this, but it's just how I feel. I'm not going to lie. There has always been, still is, and will always be drama in the paranormal field. And it is what it is. And the reason why is because it comes from within. Sure, we have our fair share of trolls outside of the paranormal community that just attack to attack. You know, the paranormal community gets its fair share of, you know, the woke mob and haters and trolls and all that too. But most of our it's inner strife from the paranormal community that keeps that drama going. You know, people there's a lot of jealousy in the paranormal community that I find it's a shame. I'm always super happy and for someone's success or um, you know, someone's notoriety or you know, evidence they produce that's, you know, phenomenal. Um, but there's a lot of people that even might even look you right in your face and tell you that they're happy for you and they wish you the best, and they don't really mean it. But it is what it is. But unfortunately, Bill, I think it's always going to be that way. I just try to avoid it. Me personally, I put the blinders on and I just keep plowing ahead, and I don't even respond to any. If I get anybody attacking me or coming after me or criticizing me or whatever it is, I just don't give it any energy. As soon as you comment back, come back at someone, that's what they want. So I just totally avoid all drama. And I've even had some close friends that I love that I've had to like stay friends but like unfollow because they're just involved in a lot of drama, and they know I love them and I pray for them all the time. But I got too much drama in my life as it is and what I do to have any extra. So just and speaking of drama,
Yeah, there's also, Shawn, there's so many people who do things so many different ways that, it's kind of like the old saying, opinions are like, well,
everyone's got one.
and everybody's got one and most of them
We're
stink.
both we're both sitting on our opinions right now.
Yeah, we're both sitting on our opinions right now. But I mean, there are so many people who are so set in their one way that, yeah, they like to cause drama when somebody else says anything. Huh. Kind of sounds like something else that we all have to deal with right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I'll add this one last thing and then we'll move on. I'm sorry for all you guys out there that think that the scientific method and there is a particular way to do things and that's the only way to do it. God bless you. I'll pray for you too. But we're never gonna know the answers. I'm never gonna be able to have a ghost sit here and interview him on my show or her or it or whatever. Yes, I believe in ghosts. Yes, I believe in demons and angels and God and Jesus and all that. But we're not going to be able to indisputably, I can't talk today, prove the existence of life after death. That is what it is. We'll all be having this conversation one day in heaven, and we'll get a chuckle and a laugh out of what we know then that we don't know now. And that's why I'm so passionate about the paranormal, because it's the big unknown. It's we don't have all the answers, and we never will get all the answers one day. But right now, no. While you're on this path and in this realm, you're not going to get all the answers. It is what it is. I've accepted that. I know a lot of people that have, and I know a lot of people that don't accept that, and they won't admit it to you, but they have a little bit of a rough time with that. Let it go. Let go. Let God. It is what it is, man. Just be passionate about investigating the paranormal and ghost busting and ghost hunting and all that sort of stuff. It's okay to be skeptic. I've got good friends that they keep me in check with their skepticism. They keep me in check. I love it. But it's a healthy skepticism. They're open to the possibilities. They don't cram it down my throat that I'm a crazy man, and I am crazy. But that is what it is too. Speaking of crazy again, before I move on, Zach, did you want to say something to me, buddy?
Oh, no, I was agreeing. You're
Oh,
insane. Or crazy. I'm sorry, you said crazy.
yeah, okay. All right, guys. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. When you go there to visit, keep in mind my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So I know times are tough, but if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts, and trust me, we'll put it to good use. If you're having issues of a spiritual nature, not attached to the paranormal, and you'd like to speak to me about those issues, I'm a certified spiritual advisor, intuitive coach, listener. I'm a great listener. No judgment. There's a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me. But don't leave the website without navigating over to the page called the Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course/books. On that page, you'll find not only one, but both of my books, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And I love these books. my blood, sweat, and tears literally went into writing these, and I'm very proud of the work. And you can get the books there autographed, and they come to you enclosed in a beautiful house blessing kit, or you can get them a little less expensive at Amazon. Scroll a little bit further down, and you'll run into the Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course. I offer a 12-week online college level course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. And this course is for all you true warriors for Christ out there that feel a calling and a longing to want to have more knowledge when it comes to drawing your line in the sand, making a stand, circling the wagons, and putting up a good fight. In many circumstances, the fight of your life against, God forbid, true evil, if that ever comes calling, this is the course for you. You can enroll in the course there at the website. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, reach out to me. We can talk and see if the course is right for you. No, it's not going to teach you how to be an exorcist. That's a completely different type of calling, but it's for the person out there that wants to be ready while they're out there doing their paranormal investigating, their ghost hunting, their ghost busting, trying to help other people with their paranormal issues. Be ready, because sometimes you get the mother lode of all haunts dropped in your lap, and you got to know what to do. Okay, the moment of truth. The reason why you all tuned in. I love this guy. I respect him. He's a cool dude. Everybody that he's associated with in his little paranormal community and his team, they're all cool, all great people. Um, and it's always a pleasure for me to via the computer internet airways make my way over to, I always call it the motherland because that's where my ancestry comes from, the UK. So without further ado, co-manager of Lincolnshire Spirit Seekers Scotland, also a top-notch paranormal investigator and researcher, please welcome to the show, give a big paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Bob Sharp.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Shawn.
How are you, brother? You look very relaxed and handsome today and ready to get into a good paranormal chat.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the only other person that's told me I'm handsome today was my missus, which is nice. Yeah, it's the end of a long, busy week for me. I've just swapped jobs in a roundabout way to make things a little better for myself and this, that, and the other, and take more time with the investigation and the research and stuff. And as you just mentioned, I took over for Martin and Wendy, who both say hi, by the way. Wendy's a little bit under the weather at the moment. I took over doing the Scotland LSS Legacy of Spirit Seekers Scotland division because Martin knows, so does Wendy. I've got an amazing love for Scotland. Planning on, like I was saying to you, planning on moving there. An interesting place, amazingly interesting place. I'd like to say somebody's got to do it, but it's not it's not great shake. So along with that, the job swap, and you know how it is. You have to fit these things in somewhere, and there's not enough hours in the day. So,
You mentioned early in the green room before we got going. You mentioned it had warmed up there. What are we talking in England? When you say warm up,
not warmed up like it is in some places. I know in the States. I think it's about, just give me a moment. It's about 17 degrees here, and it's not really cooled down much from the day. So, when it gets to the evening, it just makes it a bit more. I mean, it is cooler than it has been for the last few nights. The problem here this year is, and I've noticed it's had an effect on a lot of stuff. It's the temperature rose, but it didn't rise like it normally does, and it's been quite humid, quite wet, muggy. I do believe a lot of Great Britain was swampland thousands of years ago, and it still feels like it, to be honest with you, a lot of the time. So, yeah, so this year we've had it so wet. I do believe June, July, and August have been the wettest on record. And I actually think it's had reading things and stuff. It's had a bit of an effect on the paranormal world and this, that, and the other. You know, the upset in the weather and stuff. But at the moment, it's a little bit cooler, but not so much. Evening,
Well,
Charles. Thank you very much, and
I
yeah,
think
Pam as well.
I think you knew this question was coming. There's a lot of things I admire about you, and I'll tell you what. I have a lot of friends that are just like you, very experienced, seasoned paranormal investigators, researchers,
Yeah,
um, that are on the fence. They're skeptic, and like you've been quoted as saying, you're skeptic but not cynical.
yeah.
And they're the same way. That they've either had an experience that they can't explain, or they've had a close friend or loved one have an experience that they can't explain. So they're open to the possibilities, but because they haven't, and who knows how they would react if a ghost did appear right in front of their face and then vanish. But they haven't had that happen. So they're on the fence, but they have developed this passion for researching and trying to find the answers. So having said that, I know people are interested in your paranormal journey, how it started and how it got you to where you're at today, and where you're at with all of this stuff. Where does it fall for you in your belief system with everything that you've experienced?
It's an interesting question. I've always been, I would have said skeptical. I've never been as, do you know, it's really difficult, but I try never to be a cynic for anything because I, I, as personally, I only, I'm not going to say absolutely certain, but you can't even be certain of the things like that anymore. But you know, certain of my path from being born to sort of like my childhood, remembering back as far as I can and stuff, and the things that have happened to me, whether it was falling over and cutting my knee or, you know, stuff that I'd experienced to do with the paranormal, and then other things that have happened, and then getting married and other stuff, and that, you know, the children being born and stuff, and all these things that are a part of life are the parts of the bits that you experience. So I've always been open to what people come, you know, say to you, and this, that, and the other, especially given the experiences I've had myself. So I've always fallen on the fence with the skepticisms. Always try to look and debunk stuff first. But sometimes you can't. I recently, last few days, had this conversation with a lady, and you know, I said, it's when you have those fleeting glances out your eye corner is a lot different than when you see something. I mean, whether it's, you know, ghosts, whether it's, you know, UFOs and stuff. So I'm into all that as well. It's there's a little. It kind of irks me a little bit on the two sides of the fence, whereby you've got those that fall on one side that go, no, there's absolutely nothing with it. It's just a load of rubbish. There's just, it's never possible. That's it. And the others on the other side that'll, you know, just totally want to believe everything. But then you've got these people in the middle that sort of, you know, ask all those questions. We need those people. To be honest with you, we need everybody, but we need to balance it, which is the good, but it's on about with the logo, the yin and the yang and stuff. So yeah, it's been it's to be fair, it's not been tough, but it is. I've had one or two, you know, where somebody's challenged sort of beliefs, and I've stopped and thought about it and gone, there's a right way and a wrong way, and then, you know, to answer a question and, you know, and then go from it and stuff. But yeah, I always stay on, try and stay on the fence, try and debunk, but always listen. Always listen. As I've said before, and I think I said it when you was on our show, you could tell me you've got fairies at the bottom of the garden. I'll listen to you. I'll absolutely listen to you. After what's happened to me over the years, and I know it was real. I obviously can only recount a tale, but I know what I saw was real, and some of it more real than other things. So I know it would only be fair heart on heart that I would listen to somebody else, regardless of what they told. Even if they told me they saw a dragon, it's the way it is.
You know,
That kind
it's
of answer.
interesting that you say the word listen. That a lot of people don't realize how important that is. It's even like when I do my spiritual advisor stuff.
Yeah,
Sometimes someone will make an appointment to talk with me, and I don't say a word.
yeah,
The appointment may be an hour and a half long, and I've said maybe hello, how are you, how you feeling, what's going on, and then I find myself at the very end saying, "Nice talking to you. I'll be in, goodbye,"
Yeah,
because they've all of a sudden at the very end of venting have said, in the process of doing this, I've come to my own conclusions and I've answered my own problems. And just you sitting there and listening has been
yeah,
the greatest help in the world.
yeah,
That a lot of people don't have that ability to just sit there and listen.
yeah.
And especially in this field. Well, you and I must already be a little psychically in tune right now because you know what the next question is going to be. People have reached out to me this week wanting to know. LSS has quite a following, so
Yeah,
we'll go over that in a minute. But everybody
yeah.
wants to know. So what was the? Do you have the experience that you can talk about that really either has you just still
Yeah.
scratching your head and going, the
Um,
relate, or one that just really has just about made a believer out of you?
I think I suppose I was lucky. I was quite lucky, I think, because of a lot of the people that I've talked to over the last few years have come from backgrounds. Even Martin himself have come from a background where they know, especially those with the different psychic abilities, and they've come from being in their childhood where they've had a background of they know something's different, and when they've tried to talk about it, family members have gone no, and they've had to keep it hidden, secret, and then they've never been allowed to talk about it, and stuff like that. And I was really lucky. I was really, really lucky because I was born and brought up in the middle of what I'll call the middle of nowhere in Lincolnshire, and my mum was a crossing keeper, and my dad was a sort of land worker, and spent a lot of time on the land, and on my dad's side hunting, so they was out a lot. And as I was growing up, really really young, I would have my uncle David and my granddad and my dad come back. They'd been out hunting at night and stuff, and I'd come down really early just to see what had happened and this, that, and the other. And the number of times they'd talk about things they'd seen in the sky, and some other things and that. And so it was always there. I was massively into astronomy. I was massively into science fiction. Absolutely, even to this day, I still watch crazy 1950s sci-fi movies because I have a belief in why we have those movies exist and stuff. But at an early age, I got quite into music and never really pushed it and stuff. But in the midst of all that, I had. On my mum's side, my dad and my grandma. My grandma, I never knew very well because she died when I was about, so I was trying to figure it out, so around 6 or 7 years old. And unfortunately at the time, she had really bad diabetes, and unfortunately she lost her legs from below the knees. And back in those days, they didn't have the prosthetics, I think it's the right word, that we have now. So she had these strange caliper type legs that would always be hidden with a skirt or trousers, and with just the wooden feet. Funnily, strangely enough, when we was at my granny and my granddad's, if me and my brother was playing up and stuff, she'd always go to unstrap one of the legs and go, "If you don't behave yourself, boys, I'm going to be walloping you with one of these." So, and she always sat in the corner. That was a chair, and I know she moved about and stuff, and obviously there was family members, a massive family to help out. So she was there, and I always knew she was there. My granddad was an organ pianist, choir master. He fixed build organs and pianos and stuff. So I had this busy household and stuff. And then one day, my nan passed away. I probably couldn't even tell you now what she died of. But even as a kid, I was really, really into sort of like the old cassette recorders. I love sound. I used to go down because I had a massive back garden. I used to record sounds and things like that. I mean, I couldn't believe when I found out that the original lightsaber sounds were actually the metal wires that you use on the telegraph poles. They just banged them with hammers, and you got that twing sound that they got. They're the original sound. And I managed to mimic it myself. I thought, wow, that's amazing. So I always got into sound and stuff. So, we used to carry a tape recorder and stuff, and I was quite lucky. Somebody gave me a Polaroid camera, which back then it wasn't expensive to do. So I used to take pictures everywhere. Then after my nan died, and obviously being young, it was very odd. The family was there. There were a lot of families. There was 7 along with my mum. There was seven of them on that side, and we was at the house, and it was quite just busy. And then everybody sort of flitted into the garden and stuff. And then I was just sort of in the middle room, and I just took a couple of shots like I used to with this camera and messed about. And I took a couple of shots out the window at everybody in the garden because it was the usual thing. It's usually weddings or, families get together, weddings and funerals. And anyway, a couple of pictures came out, but I took one in the corner, and it was just with the stuff on the mantelpiece and the clocks and everything. But it also captured my nan's chair, and it came out, and it was foggy where my nan's chair was. Not misty, not like you see in movies, but it wasn't right. It was out of focus. And I thought, well, that's odd. That's just so snap, took another one. Same again. Totally different kind of shape. I thought that is really, really weird. So they had a big table, and I sort of backed away from the table. I wasn't scared. I've never been scared of anything like that. Not the dark, no, nothing. I'm born and brought up in the middle of nowhere, like I say. And even at that age, I went to a different angle and took a shot because I was into everything, and I used to like watching how movies was made and everything. Took another shot, absolutely perfect, nothing. And I sort of took another one, trying not to waste my roll of film, and nothing, because obviously they come out and they develop. And that was the first time I come across something actually personal. And when it was quiet later on, I showed it to my mum, and she went, that is really odd. And she said, show your dad, because I was quite lucky, because my mum and dad, didn't hide anything like that. And my dad looked at it and he went, he said, don't show it to your granddad because it might upset him, as you would. Yeah. And it was my first, that would be the first thing that happened to me that I sort of like personally, because unbelievably or not, it's like now, the moment you sort of tell, I'm with this new job and I've been meeting some new people, and they go, oh, what do you do in your spare time? Are you, paranormal research, this, that, and the other, bang, boom, that's it. Everybody's got a story. Very, very, I would have said 90% of the people I meet got a story. 10%, yeah, okay, load of rubbish. But that's how it is. So, but that would be my first. That would be the moment I thought to myself, there's something not quite right. And I actually had that, feeling myself. It wasn't cold. It wasn't, we used to visit my granddad a lot. And a few times he had a big piano he had a Lunsendorf piano in the what was, I would call the front room. And sometimes when I was sat in the other room and I'd just be drawing or something, I'd be like, hang on a minute, that's the piano. And I'd go in and nothing. The lid was down. But yeah, after that, I used to sit sometimes and just look at my nan's chair until years later when they moved things around and my granddad died and everything as well. And things changed. But yeah, that was my first. And it was an eye-opener. And somewhere buried in the depths of my picture things, I've still got the pictures, I think, somewhere, these Polaroids. That was my first.
Well, it's funny. It's interesting we're having this conversation because I have a friend who's a researcher like you. He reminds me so much of you. He's had experiences. He can't explain them, so that keeps him on the fence. But he's not. Yeah. He says if someone were able to prove to me that there is life after death and ghosts are real, I'm ready to accept it. I'm not ready to say that it doesn't exist. Yeah. But enough things have happened to him that, like you, have gotten him into this field. Yeah. But he called me the other day. There's no wrong or right answer here, but I'm going to pick your brain and see if you have a theory here. He was at a location where there were several floors, and I think a couple of floors above him or below him, on the other side of the building, he had a camcorder running that had very sensitive audio on it, just fixed in an area that was known to have a lot of activity. he's on the other end of the building on a different floor, and he's conducting an EVP session. And it was just not happening on that side of the building. So he decided when he was all done, he left, went, finished his investigation, eventually came back and got that other camera. And it wasn't until I think a couple of days later he's reviewing evidence.
Yeah.
He found that he was the questions he was asking on his EV during his EVP session were actually being picked up and answered on that camera
Yeah.
2 floors above or below him on the other side of the building, which he found you can't explain that kind of thing, but he wondered why it was answering him there. And then another question I want to ask you is the two-part question here. He might be somewhere and he'll get answers to his questions in another language.
Mm.
So do you think, and he won't understand what it is, and eventually he'll take the tape to a linguistics
Yeah.
specialist who will listen and go, oh, that's somebody answering your question in Spanish or German or whatever the case may be. So that's pretty interesting. That apparently
Mm.
this entity that is answering him understood him, but is answering in their own language. Do you think it's necessary to go to a place like if you're investigating a castle in Germany to speak to the ghosts in German, or does it not matter? Or what do you think about this phenomena where you're on one end of a location, but the activity is responding to you somewhere else?
I now I'll go with the I can never say the word phenomenon properly. I'll go with that part first. For me, I mean, over the years with the experiences and the researching and the reading and stuff, you always you work theories out, you postulate them, and then you sort of sometimes you go and you look at them and you go, well, that's a load of rubbish. I mean, I'm not a professional or anything, but I like writing music. I really do, and I get told off all the time that I should do something with it, and I'm quite passionate about it. But on my hard drive upstairs on my computer, where I've got all my keyboard and everything, I've got probably hundreds of hours, little snippets where I'll write a little bit, few chords, little sound, something, and sometimes I'll go back over them and look at them, and think to myself, oh, that's useful, that's not. So I think sometimes that for humans, our problem is it's very, very, very difficult not to see things in a way that very linear, because we're born, we live, we die as far as we know. So we perceive time. And the thing is, though, I'm going to go right out on a limb here. Technically, time doesn't exist because humans invented time, because it's a concept that we understand for the passage of the sun and the moon and the stars and the seasons and everything else. So it is logical, but I remember once, somebody talked about how animals and that perceive time differently. So, the old thing about dogs live 7 years to one of ours and stuff. So it's all about the perception of where we are. So if and where you are at a particular time, the difference between me being a child and being an adult and stuff. So surely that works for like locations as well. That there's the concept of 3 dimensions as they are, or 4 dimensions if we go time, is relative to what we understand. So if it's possible, surely the whole point is that maybe in an area where there's a location that something's going on, it may not be pinpointed and exact, so that you'll get those answers somewhere else, because even though it's close, I'm not explaining it very well. I know what I mean in my mind. I'm sat here now in my lounge and there's a wall between me and the kitchen, but within a different veil, a different universe, a different dimension, whatever you want to call it, all of this will not exist. So also the distances, there may not be no distance, because it makes no sense to me. A lot of people say, well, why would I see a ghost here or see a ghost there and stuff? But surely there's no distance, because it's different. There's you don't have to go 10 miles down or kilometers for you guys down the road to the shops. If you're within a different veil of existence, that just doesn't happen. Maybe you can move. So maybe it's not, maybe there's so much to it. Maybe you just is it corporeal the right word? So maybe the fact is, as you're moving around an area, that this location, the answers appear somewhere else or happen somewhere else. I've read that quite a lot actually, or seen, different things where they pick things up and in different locales and stuff. I'm not sure I've explained this very well, but I just think that what you get is that we tend to think of everything in the dimensions as we believe, and that's not the case. Whether you believe in heaven and hell or you just believe in, me personally, I believe in I believe in the universe. I believe in what the universe around us is what we're part of, and we live, we're born, we die, we're part of stardust, we go back to the universe and things. But I think as what we see is just nothing compared to what there is out there, and I think how we perceive time and space and stuff makes it different. So I think that's how that's how these things happen. That those rules don't exist because we've made those rules up for ourselves so that we can understand life, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I just think that that the whatever rules exist outside of the time, the frame of living, just don't exist. And there are so many theories on that; it's incredible. Yeah. I'm not sure. Sorry if I didn't explain that very well.
No, I got you. I totally understand.
Yeah. The whole point of I think what I'm trying to say is that the whole point is when we're alive, those distances, that time, that space and stuff just doesn't exist once when you're gone. And so the equipment that we've got and stuff pick stuff up in different areas and stuff. I've got to admit, I much prefer tapes. The old-fashioned tapes. I know the electronics is fine, but old-fashioned tape recorders, the old cameras, camcorders, the lot, analog type stuff. I much prefer it because I know it's not quite what it used to be, but I think it's less messed about with. It's easier to deal with, and I think it picks up more. It's more real radios and stuff. Where they used to tune it to. I don't know if you guys know. I think it's like AM where they used to tune it to radio frequencies. That makes sense. And they used to listen to background noise to hear noise within the.
Did I lose you guys? Did we lose Bob?
You didn't lose me. It looks like we may have lost him for a second. Well,
maybe he'll pop back on here again.
Yeah, I've actually heard what he was just talking about the analog, the old-fashioned kinds. Hi, Jennifer. The old-fashioned kind of recording devices that you had the audio tape.
That was really weird. I lost you there for a minute. I got a complete pause. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hey, not a problem. Bob, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Us being here in the States and you being there across the pond.
Yeah.
Which, in your guys' mind, and Shawn, I'd like for your response on this too, since you've got history on both sides. Which country has the most paranormal activity?
Probably the United States. It's bigger. But
well, you know what's funny? I was going to say the opposite. I'll tell you why.
That's an unfair question. That
there's people out there that do surveys and keep records on just about everything. And I just saw a recent survey, and how they keep records of this, I don't know, but it probably comes down to there's a lot goes into it of cultures that will talk more about it. If you have a culture that's going to keep tight-lipped about, believing in life after death and ghosts and all that, then you may not have so many reports. But the latest surveys show that still England holds the number one slot at being considered the most haunted country in the world, merely because of reports. That doesn't mean, I think it has a lot to do with cultures, and some cultures being more open to it and talking about it and reporting their experiences than not. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, Because I've got something for you then. I actually, within reason, don't actually believe in places being haunted. You, you know, if you mentioned at the beginning with the question, sorry, I've forgot that went into that, the second part of that question. But
Oh, it was the
I have,
language. It was the
yeah, the language thing. Yeah, I have that was good part of this. I have this theory that there isn't somewhere just places that are haunted because it makes it kind of not make sense. But you mentioned it, German, like a castle in Germany. So you've got a castle with next to not far down the road. If anybody catches this, a place called Thornton Abbey. It was right close, about a mile down the road from where I was born and brought up. Amazing history, absolutely, for a place that's on the East Coast. This a massive, great big gatehouse, like a castle. And the abbey at the back, about 1,000 years old. The abbey is, I think, the 600 years. About 400 years later, they built the gatehouse. A lot of history. We've got lots of old air bases and stuff to do with World War II and things and that and about and stuff. But so we've got all these places. So, and I just think it's more to do with us and where we are and the people that you're with. Because, for instance, I luckily enough now to time to spend with Wendy, I've recounted this quite a lot, so I don't go really deep into it. But I know the sort of stuff that I can do and I've picked up. And then I watch Wendy communicate with an item. And not just 2 seconds. It's one of my favourite things. I've got this recorded, this cat ball, and she's talking to it. And it is flashing on and off. It's answering her. And when it goes on, she asks it to stop and it stops. So she got communication. Now, if she got communication, did she get communication because she's more in tune? As I always have this theory about 1,000 people can walk down the street and see nothing. Some of them can walk up and down the street every day and see nothing. They just go to work, they go home, come back again. One person been walking down the street in tune because there's a lot of brain waves, radio waves, a lot, and they'll just see something. It might be a person, it could be anything. And it's because at that moment they're right in tune with something that happened there because we all think about the bad things that happened, you know, the world wars, the things in the Ukraine at the moment and all that kind of stuff. So we always look at all those sort of things, and especially in France, like Flanders Fields and stuff like that. So you always think about those places as being important and stuff, and they're powerful. So there's energy, there's the energy there, there's stuff left there. But surely then, every time somebody goes there, somebody would see a ghost or a spirit or whatever. But that doesn't always the case. That's not always the case at all. Is it because it's to do with the person and the people that visit, or even the animals? Because that's a completely different thing, if that makes sense. And it's not because areas or particular places are more haunted. It's just the people that visit and go to the places that, because let's face it, nobody knows a place is haunted unless it's been visited and been seen by somebody.
Yeah.
So, because
it's like if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Or the one hand clap, the sound of one hand clapping. But it's true because if a ghost walks the street, this always reminds me of the stone tape theory by Nigel Neal. Amazing idea, and with some truth to it. Because a lot of people sort of poo-poo with the idea, and it's not true. There is some basis to it. Say a group of people witness the spirit walking down a corridor, the lady, whatever, the typical white lady, and that. Does that white lady still walk when then people are not about? Or is the energy of the person and the energy of why she walked down there, is that the connection that brings out the spirit? Which case makes... Because, you know, you'll know of 30 East Drive over here, won't you? And then, you know, the Sally House over in America and stuff, all those places, because they've been bombarded by people visiting them and stuff, they are famous. And so there's a lot... You know, a lot happens because a lot of people visit there all the time.
That combined collective energy and all of the focused thought patterns of all those people on that particular topic.
Maybe not even that, though, because you'd get those differences in. Because some people go... I had a friend who went to that East Drive and she said, we got some interesting EVPs, but I didn't really get much of anything else. She said it wasn't cold. It was it was a lovely old, what we call council house. I've read of other people who've gone there and have seen the monk and all sorts. And you think, hang on a minute though, how there's got to be a reason because of the non-consistency. And so I started to think for myself a long time ago, I'm starting to think that there's not such a thing as hauntings, but there's as we per se, but it's to do with the connection. It's to do with everything that puts it all together that makes it, it happen, because I've always...
The perfect paranormal storm.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that thing, because I have read this, I've done a lot of reading about Lincolnshire and stuff, and some of the stories about there's a place down the road from me where a lot of people see a woman and she looks ill, and when people stop she's gone in a flat area with a little bit of a humpback bridge. And there is a story about a lady who sort of unfortunately lost a lover, and she was swore by a lover and chucked herself into the river and drowned, bumped her head on the rocks, drowned. And they claim it's the woman that's been seen. So, that area, but that road is travelled every day. But not every day somebody sees that. But surely, if I'm making sense, surely, if something's going to happen, and that's where I come to the stone tape theory, because I've been just reading a lot of just lately. A lot of people have got the idea about the stone tape theory. It's a great idea, and it is, and I do got some belief in it to a degree. But it was a sort of like a play by a guy called Nigel Neal, who invented and wrote Quatermass, and he invented this idea, this just one-off play, and it was massive. It was so popular. And a lot of people took that stone tape theory, and a lot of people then realised, a lot of the proper cynics went, it doesn't exist, does it? Because it was made up by something, but it's not true. Nigel Neal did the research and came up with the idea. He didn't come up with the idea, he came up with the idea with a play. So the stone tape theory, as it's called, actually did exist before then. So when, the idea that the area records and then people come along and pick it up. In this case, it was a woman when they were working there. This woman sparked it off because it was just to do, I think, with her mental state. I'm not going to it too much. But yeah, and so she drew the spirit out. Well, because of that was like recorded there. And the thing that you said about the languages, it's interesting because I used to joke and laugh a lot when I was watching with my wife, watching a lot of the TV programs, and they used to be different. I went, those recordings they've got don't sound very American, some of them. And they're in a few places. It's not very German, the word you said German. But again, is that because that's how we perceive it? Because language is a barrier that's not always there that we understand. To be honest with you, I haven't got a real sort of idea on why, but it is a question I've seen, I've seen with or heard and read before about. But why do you go to France, Flanders Fields, and people have heard shouting and stuff, and they've recanted soldiers or something to do with soldiers shouting about the enemy coming and that, and you're thinking in France, and they were talking English. So I don't know. It is a really, really odd one, especially when you do come across EVPs in different languages. Like I say,
let me throw this.
It's not perfect.
Let me throw this one at you. I have two friends that live in England.
Yeah.
One says, he reached out to me because he says, I'll either be eating breakfast or dinner or watching TV, and I see this woman come in the house as if was outside and comes in through the front door, and then she floats. Her legs keep walking, but she floats up and goes out the ceiling. Well, he started doing a lot of research, and back in the day, like back in the day, apparently the home was a pub, and the woman owned the pub, but she lived upstairs. Now the upstairs is just storage unit, and they remade the pub into the home that he lives in. But now you've got this spirit who's constantly walking upstairs that used to be there, because he has an old picture of stairs that used to be there, still walking up these stairs that are no longer there. And I have another friend in England who keeps seeing soldiers march through his living room, but he only sees them from the torso up. And many, many years ago, he researched just down the road, there was like a fort.
Yeah.
But they used to travel. The home wasn't there back in the day, but the soldiers would march down
Yeah,
right through the path where his home now sits,
yeah,
but the ground was a lot lower.
yeah. That York. When in the city of York, there's a place called the Viking Centre because York was massive for the Vikings. I can't remember its Viking name. When they were making I believe it was that the Viking Centre, some of the workers saw similar. One of the workers said, no, I'm never going back. And when they said why, he said, I've seen a bloke who looks like someone out of one of those like Charlton Heston movies. And he said, but he had no legs. And he wasn't the only one to see it. And as they renovated down to put the footings in, found, I think it was a Roman, like I'm going to have to go with like a living room type thing and stuff. And it was sunken down. And then that was when they realised that a few people had seen something, and it made sense that you would say that the height would be about right, and that would make sense.
So do you buy into I just naturally think when I get those stories, residual. But I'm on the fence with
Yeah,
residual. I don't know if I totally buy into residual or not because I've debunked a couple of residual
yeah,
haunts that turned out to be intelligent. Do you buy into the residual?
yes, I think I think I do, because going back to like the whole thing with the stone tape theory, I do think I was gonna sort of, well, that's for me, as I was explaining before about the whole idea about places not being haunted. It's the energy, the locale, the people, and everything else coming together for that. And some places maybe are just more energetic because of what's gone on there. But it's still, like you say, you can't have a haunting until you've got somebody to see the haunting until it happens. Well, I do think that let's, like I was saying before, you've got these obvious places, the massive places around the world that were affected. Bombings and stuff in World War II happened everywhere, and things like that, wars and other things that have happened in locales and stuff. And everybody always thinks about those. So everybody always thinks about like Flanders Fields, as I said, or I was trying to think of it. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the bombs was dropped, the first nukes was dropped and things like that. Any of those places. The thing is, it's not just about that. It's about the person, because I once read, and this is where I was thinking about Nigel Neal got his idea eventually for the stone tape theory. He wrote a play based on something that had happened to a chap that was a friend of his that worked on the telephones back in the 50s, and they kept getting these what they call ghost voices, and he got the idea of writing a story about these lovers, and one of them left like a last phone call to a lover, and it kept replaying over this line because because of what had happened, and the energy, the powerful energy of somebody realizing that the lover was I think he was killed in an accident, and so she picked the phone up and she called him one last time, and then she unfortunately committed suicide. But that whole thing was recorded in time, and the people who moved into the house, I think it was, I'm going to get this probably wrong, the phone kept ringing, picking it up, and they'd hear her sobbing, pleading for him to come back, and it kept recording until they did something. I really don't know. I'd love to find it and listen to it, because apparently it was a great sort of radio play. But you imagine that, because we think about those big events that happen, but like when lovers break up or somebody dies and your family, that's massive. That's earth shattering to you. So if that energy's left, I do believe that it leaves a recording, but I just don't think that people, massively pick that up until somebody comes along and they are in tune and things like that. But is there a possibility that it's not just a recording, that it plays over and over until somebody taps into it, and then you can have communication? Or is it literally because there are spirits there that that will always be there? See, my struggle with that is the whole concept that, again, so going back to thinking about time and space in it's us as humans, because you think back to this, you experience being able to communicate with a spirit, and that spirit was from the 1600s. That's quite a large pill to swallow. That there is an intelligent spirit somewhere that's 600 years old, and it must understand that it's 600 years old, and time has gone. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's quite a difficult pill to swallow, I think, because you think to yourself, they don't. I've just, you know, to be as a side note, I've never understood literally when on these programs or whatever, they go to talk to a ghost, I've gone, none of them's gone, it's 2023, you're 400 years old. Do you know time's passing? They never do. They're just useless. They just ask all the wrong questions. But yeah, side note is, have you ever thought about it? That the fact that if that is, like I say, if you talk to a spirit that's 400 or 500 years old, does that spirit understand that it's 400 or 500 years old, or does time lose its concept because time doesn't exist? Not really. And Martin, I don't know if Martin's still on. I noticed he was on, but I blew his mind one night with this idea about time not existing, that everything that happens is in the now. That I know I'm simplifying this loads, but because you know that everything that happens and always will happen happens in one, but we just see it from our concept. But when we pass and we go to wherever we go, that all of that's gone. But all of the things that we've been and all the things that we are and all the things that we become are there for us to maybe, you know, there is no time. Even I struggle with the concept, but I have sat and thought about all of this question about really, you know, there's a Roman soldier that's been dead 500 years, and he can see whatever he sees in me if he sees like a light, and he's going, what is this? And I'm going, oh, I want to talk to you. My name's Bob, and all this, that, and the other and stuff. And you know, are you? And you're thinking to yourself, what is it that each other sees? What do these spirits understand? And I think it's a lot different than we sort of believe.
Well, brother, we're almost out of time here. Did you have fun? Yeah. Will you come back?
Yeah, totally. I'm not very. I need to learn what I discovered. I said to Martin, I discovered that it's really difficult sometimes, because when you don't know the questions, people throw something at you and you think, God, and you have so much to try and fit in, and it usually. So I apologize to any of your viewers if I've sort of left them, you know.
Don't worry about it. I have a very forgiving audience. But I'll have you back, brother. You know I love you. You know I respect you. Give my best.
Yeah, you too, Shawn. It's amazing.
LSS team. And I'll reach out to you, throw some dates at you, probably in November. I'll have you back. We'll do a part 2.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I say, we'll have to have a chat and have a talk about some. It's interesting. I think it's nice to be able to, you know, talk about stuff, get those theories out there. And I'd love to, like with you, Shawn, and other people that you talk to, I'd love to hear their theories, because I bet somewhere down the line we've got quite a wavy but straight line of information. So thank you guys.
You have a great remainder to your Friday evening, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Take care, brother. Bob Sharp, Lincolnshire Spirit Seekers. That's a great team. Great guy. I'm going to have him back, I promise. In November, we'll do a part 2, and we'll talk some more about haunts. You know, someone once said hauntings are just history telling its story. But does the haunting still happen if you're not there to see the haunting or experience it? All right. The church I belong to, usocc.org or bishopjameslong.com. Go to those sites. Be pleasantly surprised. We offer night prayer Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. We offer Bible study Wednesday afternoons and Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find the links to both of those there. Thank you to Adrian and Zach Clayton, my co-producers. Couldn't do the show without them. Go to Zach's website. Check it out. Again, just go there. Be pleasantly surprised. CommunityPayItForward.us. Next week's guest. Why don't you have to look? Monday, this coming Monday. Yeah, I better look. The 28th, Happy Medium Monday with Susan Ahern. Free live on air psychic readings. If you've ever wanted a psychic reading from a psychic, a legit talented, gifted psychic. Tune in live, type your question into the chat room. She'll answer it. That's this Monday, the 28th. Happy Medium Monday. Um, Find me now at my new Facebook profile, Lawrence Morace, Lawrence, Morace, Morace. It's a stage name, but Sean Patrick Whittington in parentheses is right after that. My original profile got deactivated. Don't know why. Don't know if I got hacked or if I upset Facebook. They won't get back to me and tell me what happened. So, if all you people still trying to find me, that's what happened to my original um, Facebook profile. Thank you to Things Network. Thank you to Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. Thank you to Skeleton Key Network. Thank you to Pact, Little P, capital ACT, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel, for all of these networks simulcasting my show. God bless you for that. And it is bad joke time. I'm going to pull a bad joke that one of you sent into me out of this haunted carnival Barker hat. It's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say good night. What shivers at the bottom of an ocean? A nervous wreck. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all. Peace.